Welcome to Weber Math. I'm Nicholas Weber. Today we're going to be taking a look at the if formula in Excel. Now, if used correctly, if can do incredibly powerful things for you. So let's go ahead and talk about how it works. The formula has three parts. First, a logical test. This can refer to other cells, or you can build the test right into the formula. So for example, we could put in 3 greater than 2. Obviously, in this case, it will always return true, since 3 is greater than 2, as you know. Now, the next part of the formula is the value that Excel will return if that first part, if that logical test, was true. So in our example, we could put in quotes, since it will be a text value, 3 is greater than 2. And then last is the thing that you'll want Excel to return if that first part of the formula, the logical test, returned false. Now in our case, obviously that will never happen since 3 is always greater than 2. So in this case, you might put in quotes, "The universe just broke." And that was a joke. Anyway, you can also nest if formulas inside of other if formulas. Now this sounds very abstract and difficult when we're just talking about it, but let's look at an example and it will become very clear. Alright, let's go ahead and see the if formula in action for a real-world situation. So in this case, we want to go ahead and look to see if our salespeople are over a certain sales threshold, and then give them a bonus on top of their regular salary if they're over that threshold. So how can we do this? Well, we can use an if formula. So the logical test, the thing we want to check, is to see if their sales figures, which you can see here start in B2 for Gandalf, if they're over our threshold, which is in E2, then if that's true, we want to give them a bonus. So we want to take their sales figures and then give them, take that times the bonus commission, which is in E4, and we want to have that absolute reference so that it doesn't start looking down here when it gets further down the list. So that's the value if true, and we just won't give them a bonus if they are not over that threshold. So let's see what happens. So Gandalf, as you can see, is over that threshold, and so he gets the bonus. Now let's apply it to the rest of our team. As you can see, Excel handles it appropriately. Sam's over the threshold, so he gets a bonus. So is Gimli. The rest of them are not, so they do not get a bonus. But let's say that you are the manager of the sales team and you want to make sure that everyone is pulling in at least $90,000 in sales. Otherwise, you want to warn them and say, hey, you need to do a better job next quarter. So one of the really cool things about if formulas is you can nest if formulas inside other if formulas. Let's go ahead and see that in action. So right now we have it checking to see if it's over the threshold. If it is, we give them a bonus. If it's not, they don't get that bonus. So if they're not over that threshold, we want to check something else. Are they under the other threshold? So if it's false, if they're not over the bonus, then we need to check something else, a second if. So here's the other test. If the sales figures, which again are in B2 as you know, are under $90,000, and again, best practices, you'd want to build this into the spreadsheet somewhere, but in this case, for brevity's sake, we'll just put it in here. If it's under that, then we want to give them a warning. Let's not shout at them, let's just tell them that they're warned. And if it's false, well, they just don't get a bonus. So here, what this formula now does is it says, if they're over the threshold, then give them a bonus. If they're not, check something else. If they're under this second warning threshold, then warn them. If they're in between, then they just don't get a bonus. We hope that the money will be enough incentive for them to improve next quarter. So let's see what happens. So Gandalf stays the same, but let's apply this formula to the rest of our sales team. And it looks like, well, Merry and Aragorn are both under that threshold, so we need to say, hey, you guys need to do a better job next quarter. You might say, well, wait a minute, Nicholas, how on earth did you get this red fill and bold font? Well, this is a function of conditional formatting, which we'll go over in our next Excel video. Thanks so much for watching. For more information about Excel, VBA, and myself, take a look at my website, www.webermath.com. Until next time, when we take a look in conditional formatting, take care.